Uh, Thank you all for coming this evening. Sorry for the delay. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. B. Coates, please.
Good evening, board members. I hope everyone is doing fine this evening, and good evening to our 213 attendees. I do appreciate you being a part of our session this evening. I do have a presentation, so I am going to share my screen, but I do want to first acknowledge that we have Dr. Brennan, who is from the University of Pennsylvania, a part of our panelists, and I'm glad that he is here, but I did want to recognize him and thank you for being a part of our Zoom session this evening. So I'm going to go ahead on and share my screen and get us started. And hopefully everyone should see, and I just need a thumbs up. School reopening update, August 5th. Thank you very much. It's great when technology works. Yep. So most of you know our school district approved a plan for school reopening on July 27th, 2020. And that was a hybrid plan for school reopening. One of the things that we have been doing within the district is that we've been continuing to work with the Delaware County Intermediate Unit as well as the Chester County Health Department in terms of looking at the COVID data and what the data is indicating for us as it relates to a particular county as well as our 6 boroughs. So what the data is informing us at this point, and this is just of July 30th, but we've been continuing to look at the data, is that we are seeing an increase in case counts in Delaware County. And when you actually look at the information that's been presented by the Chester County Health Department, you will see that there are increases in newly reported confirmed cases. The incidence rate is at the 90% level. And then we have the positivity rate that is at about 6.5%. And then you also have contact tracing information that was made available from the Chester County Health Department. And as a reminder, this is the health department that Delaware County is partnering with because we do not have a health department, if you will, for Delaware County. So as we continue to look at the public health metrics, we are finding that we are seeing positive case counts. And then I think one of the items that were also highlighted is that when you're looking at personal responsibility, one of the things that we, that a lot of this data depends on is personal responsibility as it relates to masking as well as social distancing guidelines. So based upon that information, and we've also received some recommendations from health and medical experts, and these are just, as stated, recommendations. And so you're looking at these 4 items here to the right of the screen, and it speaks to if there's a greater than 9% rate and you're continuing to see increases, what are some of the recommendations? And again, these are just recommendations. When you see increases or decreases that are less than 5% and evidence of stable decreases, the recommendation is that we reopen for in-class instruction. There are also some recommendations as it relates to scrimmages, team competition, as well as sports. And so I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board. And again, one of the reasons why I said I was glad that Dr. Brennan was here is because he is one of the, I consider him an expert in the area that we have been dealing with. And when I say we, it's the Delaware County Intermediate Unit, as well as the Delaware County Council, as well as others within the state of Pennsylvania. And so you'll see to the right his accomplishments and what he currently does and provides for the state of Pennsylvania. And I would like to give him an opportunity to just talk a little bit about what the data is indicating to us as a school district and any additional advice he may want to provide. So I'm going to stop my screen share right now and allow Dr. Brennan to speak to some of the data that I provided and highlighted. Dr. Brennan?
Thank you, Dr. Becoats. It's a pleasure to be on with you tonight. Um, so I think you summarized nicely there the circumstances in which we find ourselves. If we were at a 1% test positivity rate, and those percentages that Dr. Becoats was quoting represents test positivity rates, that is the number of positive tests over all of the tests that have been done. If we were at 1%, we wouldn't be having this conversation. If we were at 30%, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We've been at those numbers at other times in the past, but we're in a zone right now where the test positivity rate is about 6.5%, which is not where we would like it to be. And more importantly, the trajectory of that rate is going in the wrong direction. So we're seeing an increasing number of cases, and what we would like to know is where we are going to be at the time that school opens. And I don't know your start date, but I imagine it's somewhere a few days before or after September 1st, and we don't know where we're going to be on that date. But importantly, I understand that you've got to back up that start date to to be able to have a runway to plan for your reopening and assure that your facilities and your staffing is what it needs to be. So that really narrows the window of opportunity. Southeastern Pennsylvania has done very well, relatively speaking, over the course of this pandemic compared to most other regions of the country. First, we were not hit as hard as many others, as hard as it was, and as hard as we've all been impacted, from a health perspective and from an economic perspective. New York City and New York State and parts of New Jersey and certainly the South and the West have actually been harder hit. But we got on this faster, we stayed on it longer, and we brought it under control in the June to July timeframe. But like every other section of the country, after it has reopened, whether it has reopened prematurely, as some states have, or whether it has reopened at a later time in the pandemic, as Pennsylvania and southeastern Pennsylvania have done, I believe every jurisdiction that I'm aware of has seen a recurrence of cases and case rates that have gone in the wrong direction. So, for example, in Philadelphia, towards the end of June, the 7-day rolling average of cases was about 95, and a month later, it was over 150. So a 50% increase in the rolling average. The surrounding counties have seen similar sorts of increases. And Dr. Becoats.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to be engaged in this call, because I'm kind of like, they got on my nerves at the last meeting.
Everybody mute their phones if you're not speaking. Sorry about that, Dr. Brennan.
That's okay. So we've seen similar sorts of trajectories in the suburban counties. We are not where we were in the March-April timeframe by any means. We're not seeing the numbers of cases. We're not seeing the test positivity rates, but they're at a place where we really can't be certain where they will be when school reopens, and the aggregation of students and teachers in close spaces will pose a hazard for the reopening of school. I think everyone recognizes that. The recurrence of cases that we saw in this region seemed to revolve around the 4th of July and social activities that took place around the 4th of July. In the current phase of the pandemic, the age of new cases is about 10 to 20 years younger than it was in the March-April timeframe. And we believe a lot of that has to do with socialization, social activities, particularly at the shore. Not to cast aspersions on New Jersey, but people have been aggregating there, and lots of people will go to the shore again right before the Labor Day holiday. So I believe that that we're in an uncertain place with mixed indicators, but not trending downwards at the present time. And that to me indicates that we should hit the pause button and try to be as virtual as possible. What I've suggested to the superintendents, and I haven't been, what I've been doing all along has been providing advice about infection control issues as the superintendents have planned for the reopening of school, whether it was fully in person, as many were thinking about at some points, and then later, going to a more hybrid approach. I've been making recommendations about how to approach this from an infection control perspective. But the question was put to me directly the other day as to what my recommendation would be. And, given the uncertainty of where we'll be around the time school opens and the trajectory of new cases at the present time and the timing of decisions that you have to make, I think the prudent choice is to try to buy more time and push back the opening of in-person education to a time later in the fall, at least the end of September. So when I was asked what I would do if I was sitting in Dr. Becote's seat or other seats, I would that was my answer, that I would push back the opening date and try to buy more time on the decision point. So I think that kind of summarizes it. We've gone through the data and what I think it suggests. I would also say, as a cautionary note, that I wouldn't be tied to those numbers. I wouldn't be boxed in by those numbers that 3% or 5% is safe and 9% is a threshold for shutting down. I've spoken recently with colleagues in public health at the CDC, and they have not established thresholds for reopening or for shutting down because the data that they need doesn't exist at this point in time. They're working on it constantly, but they have not established those kind of thresholds. So those are judgment calls, I think, and are impacted by what's happening with the data in the community, what's happening with test positivity. You've all heard the argument that we're finding more cases because we're doing more testing. Doing more testing adds numbers to the denominator. Finding more cases adds more numbers to the numerator. What we would expect and hope if a pandemic were under control is that as we're adding more tests, we're finding fewer cases. But when we're doing more tests, and we are, and we're finding more positive results, that suggests, that indicates, doesn't suggest, it indicates that there's more transmission going on in the community. And that's where the test positivity rate is going right now. So those are my recommendations, and be happy to take some questions, Dr. Becotes, or hear comments from the audience.
Sure. So Jennifer, I can turn it back to the board if you guys would like to ask questions now, or based upon this, would you like for me to provide my recommendation to the board and then take questions?
Recommendation and then questions. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to go back to share my screen with everyone.
I just want to tell Ms. Hinton that the screen showing is on your side. That adjustment could be made to your side.
All right, so my presentation should be back up. And again, thank you, Dr. Brennan. I do appreciate it. So based upon the information that we've shared and what Dr. Brennan has indicated, I am recommending to the board tonight that we move to online instruction for students beginning September the 14th. That was the date that was approved previously as the start of school for this coming year. Obviously, this will require us to look at some other items as it relates to administration. And so those additional updates will be provided at the Education Committee meeting on August the 12th. I am still recommending that cyber school registration continue until August the 14th. That is the date that we had, that we currently have on the application. And one of the things that I would say is that a difference with cyber school is that you will probably have a more personalized experience in that environment because the numbers will be or are much smaller than what you may find in a traditional online environment. So that's one of the things, and I know that families have asked that question. One of the things that I can tell you is that regardless of if you're in the cyber school or if you're in our online platform, if you will. We will be utilizing Google Classroom as the platform. We are all following the same eligible content, which is aligned to the Pennsylvania state standards. So that is consistent across the board. I am also recommending item number 3, that we delay the implementation of all extracurricular activities and sport competitions until November 2020. We definitely need to continue to stay in contact with our medical experts and continue to examine the data and then bring back that information to the board. So board members, that represents my recommendation at this time, and I will stop sharing my screen, and the next opportunity is now for us to have discussion or ask questions of myself or Dr. Brennan if possible.
Great. School board directors, any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time, Jim.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, I'll go to attendees. You can raise your hand or put a question in chat. Ms. Dunford asked if we can show Dr. Brennan's information again. I don't know what that entails.
Sure,
But,
I'll do that. That's no problem.
great.
Dr. Becoats, you had posed some questions to me when you contacted me about athletics and band and so on.
Sure, can you address those, please?
Sure. I think your decision about postponing sports activities is a prudent one. I think that the greatest hazard will be with contact sports. So football, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, those sorts of sports. I know they're not all fall sports, but those will pose the greatest hazard because of contact, because of close personal contact and the kind of exertion that's involved. Individual workouts with small groups may be possible depending on the sport. So having groups of perhaps 6 to 10 athletes doing drills physically spaced outdoors, I think is possible. So it's really, it becomes an issue for each individual sport in terms of the type of workout and the type of competition. I think it would have to be thought through with the athletics department on a case-by-case basis. So if you're going to bring football players in for weight training, for example, there have to be very specific cleaning plans that are made, and positioning plans for where trainers would be positioned, or weight coaches if you have weight coaches, but in how much proximity they can be to to the athlete as they're lifting, because there's a lot of exertion, there's a lot of exhalation. Weight training would be particularly challenging to have somebody spotting, for example, over somebody lifting a bar. So I think that's a case-by-case issue, but the contact sports are the most challenging. Other sports like cross country, for example, or tennis, where people are more spaced, are more doable. You asked me about the band, and the band is a particular challenge for the obvious reason of the instruments. So woodwinds, brass, flutes, all have particular challenges because of the exhalation of aerosols through the end of the instruments and through the valves. So that's something that I think would have to be discussed in greater depth. So I think other instruments, string. I don't know whether this is the marching band or a concert band, but concert bands are more doable, I think, because you can space people a little more, on a concert stage perhaps, or reduce the number of players. The close proximity in marching bands and the horns and so on pose a particular challenge.
Great.
Thank you. I do have another question. I just wanted to ask Dr. Brennan, if we have adults in a school building and they are, just say teachers, for example, are in their classroom, does that present a challenge from a health perspective? So let's say you have a school building and there are 20 classrooms in the school building, and you have a teacher in each of their identified classrooms. What is the challenge with that? If there are no students are in the building, it's just the adults.
If there are no students in the classroom, that I think is a pretty safe situation. I mean, they're going to be in an isolated room. The current guidance permits indoor gatherings up to 25 people, but it doesn't have to be the entire building. If you've got 20 teachers in 20 different rooms and the rooms are ventilated, I don't see a particular hazard in that. I would want them to come in wearing masks, and when they take lunch breaks, it's important to be separated. It's lunch times and meals are a particular challenge. People socialize, they talk, they have to have their masks down to eat. So, lunchtime is a social time where people gather and germs can spread. But the act of coming into the school, wearing a mask, cleaning your hands with hand gel, going to a classroom to do, virtual education, that is, there's minimal to no risk in that.
Okay.
I see there's a question about rooms without windows. I presume the room has got to be ventilated in some way. There's got to be air supply and air exhaust in the room, even if there are no windows. So, natural ventilation is great, but the indoor ventilation can suffice as well.
Right, and even if teachers share a classroom, the classroom is typically large enough such that people could be 6 feet apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that would be amenable, provided.
That would be permissible. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Members, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Thank you, Dr. Becoats and Dr. Brennan. Do the school board directors have any questions before I move to the chat and to the people raising their hand? I looked at the chat. Dr. Becoats has suggested that we remain in the virtual model until the end of the first quarter. Okay, so that will answer some of your questions. All right, I'm gonna go to chat and then I'm gonna go to hand raisers and I'll go back and forth. We will, Ms. Bookman, will you grab the chat in case I miss anything? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find.
Yes.
So online instruction goes till the end of the first semester. Right now, Dr. Becoats has committed to updating the board every 4 weeks. Again, what is the difference between cyber school and virtual? Dr. Becoats, did you want to go into that a little bit more, or do you want to save that for the education meeting?
I mean, I'll just share. Again, cyber is going to be a little bit more personalized because the number of students that we have is definitely going to be much smaller. I think we have right now about 357 applications. And so again, we will continue to review those applications after the deadline, which is the 14th. And we will look at the grade breakout. And again, we are all implementing and ensuring that the curriculum is aligned to the eligible content. Some of that work is actually going on now with a group of teachers who are supporting us in that endeavor. Although they are planning for online, it's the same curriculum. So our goal is to ensure that regardless of what venue you're in, you will be able to benefit from that same curriculum. And we will definitely continue to update the board. We'll have more information next Wednesday when we meet with the education committee as well.
Great. Sorry, next question. Will special education be doing online instruction as well?
As of right now, that is the recommendation, yes.
And if we go virtual, can we begin after Labor Day and not delay opening?
I think that we will need all of the time that we will have between now and September the 14th to assist teachers in their practice as it relates to online instruction. I do know that some training was provided earlier on, but our goal is to make sure that our teachers are equipped, they understand where resources are that they will need, and they receive as much training as possible. And we have already committed and have had conversations with the Delaware County Intermediate Unit, and they will be assisting us in providing that training to our teachers.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Beekos. What will be the difference for teachers if we're teaching cyber versus online?
I would say that you would probably be more personalized again. So you may have a room or a session where there are 8 or 7 students versus 20 to 25. There will also be, I would say that you're also going to need to ensure that your students are online and are part of your sessions when you are actually working with them. The other thing that I would say to families is if this is an option that you're considering for your child, I would strongly encourage you to have a conversation with your child in regards to your level of, I'll just say, aggressiveness in terms of, yes, I'm getting up, I'm going to make sure that I'm on, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing the work, I'm completing the assignments, etc. There may be a need for you to provide, as a parent, a little bit more of assistance to your child in the cyber world. And I said there may be, but those are some items that I think families need to strongly consider when you're looking at cyber.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Beekos. How will online learning look? Will teachers actually be teaching versus reading assignments and answering questions?
I would say to you that we are expecting that we have synchronous as well as asynchronous learning going on. At the elementary level, I think it will be more a mixture of providing support, having office hours. There may be the need for us to do some synchronous learning, maybe at grade 6. But again, the goal is to make sure that our students are not doing busy work. It is not my expectation that students are completing worksheets every day. Students need to be provided with real-time instruction based upon their grade level. That is the expectation.
Great, thank you. Will online instruction be daily, Monday through Friday, live lessons for the students?
Yes.
Are the teachers prepared to start online instruction on September 14th, 2020?
They will be. We're going to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure that teachers are prepared. We are completing our professional development plan. We've actually started looking at that last week, and the DCIU again has committed to assisting us with professional development. Not only are we having professional development around the use of technology, it's also going to encompass SEL, and we are also going to have sessions on race, equity, and inclusion.
Thank
That's
you, Dr.
part of our professional development series.
What reading program for grades K to 6 is used for the Cyber Academy? I know Wonders is used for everyone else, but what program is used for cyber?
We will be incorporating the use of Wonders.
Great. There's a couple of thank yous in here, a couple of thank yous for bringing the Dr. Brennan on, and I think it's prudent to take this roughly 9 weeks at a time. Sorry. We answered the question about time till the end of October. When doing online instruction, will the teachers be able to do live sessions? That way the children can ask questions directly for the teachers. I believe you answered that in asynchronous.
Yeah. Yes, they will be able to do that. And Ms. Huff, can I just pause for a second?
Yes.
Dr. Brennan has indicated he has to get off the call because he has another obligation. I just wanted to say thank you again, Dr. Brennan. We do appreciate it. And I just wanted to see do any board members have a pressing question for Dr. Brennan before he gets off?
I do not, but thank you very much, Dr.
Sure.
Brennan, for coming
My
on.
pleasure. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hoff. I just wanted to make sure.
Oh, of course. And Dr. Becoats, thank you for bringing Dr. Brennan on. It's very appreciated. How does this affect teachers who need to be out of the classroom due to being a high risk? Do they teach cyber or the regular school program?
Right. So, as we've indicated through our teacher survey, I'm asking those teachers to please complete that survey, and we will follow up with you, HR. So we're capturing all of that information. So if there is a special case, we are going to work with you on a one-on-one situation. Cyber may be a better option for you. So please make sure that you complete that survey.
How will online instruction work for younger children? Will they be issued packets?
We are going to provide training and support, and we're going to definitely follow our scope and sequence. There may be instances where students will have some projects, but we are going to make it grade level specific. So obviously, if you're in kindergarten, your assignments are going to look a little different. And I think, if we're really being transparent, we also know that in some instances, families are going to have to provide some additional support for those students. And in those instances, we are, as a part of our professional development series, are going to provide professional development for families as well. And I'm thinking that most of that will be after Labor Day, closer to the start of school, that we will be providing that support to families.
Thank you. What happens to students who were supposed to go to VOTEC?
We'll continue to work with the DCIU. Obviously, they're going to be making some plans as well. And so we will have to partner with them as it relates to how they're going to support students. And we meet with them every week. So more information will be forthcoming.
Great. There was another question about special ed students being virtual also, and Dr. Becoats did say they would be virtual. And I don't recall this. Can you say how many parents chose cyber?
I believe the last report I received was 357.
Right. And do they have to remain in cyber through the school year?
We're asking that you remain, if possible, in cyber through at least the first quarter, because the thinking is that if we're online and let's say in November, the data shows that, okay, it is okay for us to return, my recommendation as of today, at 7:09 p.m. is going to be that we go back in a hybrid fashion, because I don't think we're going to be able to go from online to everybody coming back at once. So the plans that we've already put into place for the AABB model, they may come back, but that's my current thinking.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My son was having difficulties this spring with online learning. Will there be a Zoom classroom daily for the kids?
We will be utilizing Google Classroom as the platform, but I would also encourage that family member to maybe look at the cyber as an option, because I firmly believe that you will have more personalization. And if that's what their child, if they believe that's what their child needs, they may want to consider that as an option. But there will be a Google Classroom, and the expectation is that teachers are in their rooms working with students.
Great. There's a question whether there'll be live sessions with the teachers, or will the kids get on during the week at their own pace?
There will be live sessions. We've talked about actually developing, and we will have a schedule so that it is conducive to families as well as to learning, because I think all of us can admit when you're on these Zoom sessions after so many hours, you do need a break. And so, I mean, that's just the reality. And so one of the things that we will be doing is making sure that we outline somewhat of a schedule that schools can follow, and that also a schedule that's also going to be helpful for families as well.
Okay. Would the determination be the call of the athletic director in terms of fall sports offered?
Not at this point. We're following the data from the health experts, and that's part of my recommendation tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Becoats. How will online virtual classes affect DCTS and OJT?
DCTS and OJT.
On-job training.
That's what I thought. I just
Delaware County Technical School.
I got you. So
Sorry, I
okay.
zoomed right through them.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that all of us were on the same page. I think I talked about Delaware County Technical School. We're going to be working with them, and because I don't think they've actually modified their plan right now, so I'm not sure if they will be changing their focus going forward. And on-the-job training may be done in a virtual aspect versus it being live in place. We actually had a conversation earlier about nursing and opportunities for nursing students to support the district. And so we were just talking about what does that look like in a virtual world. So I think everyone understands the situation that we're in, and most things will be offered in a virtual setting.
Great, thank you. If parents go with online education now that there's a postponement with the opening of the building, if the opening still feels too soon for a family, can they transfer to cyber?
They would be able to do that. We're going to ask that occurs at the end of a quarter, because that's just a logical breaking point, and we can plan appropriately for that.
Thank you. Why would teachers need to be there if there are no students? What would be the benefit to that?
Well, I think one, we would ensure that everyone has ample or capable, I'll just say technology, because we would be utilizing the district's technology. We would also be able to provide additional support for teachers or staff as needed. So those would be some of the significant reasons for considering or having teachers in the classrooms. If we did do that, there may be some consideration given to, as we had with the AABB model, Wednesdays being a work from home day, because that would be very similar to what we were doing with the AABB model. But that's something that we're still considering.
Thank you. If 100% cyber schooling is approved, I assume the teachers are going to need time to prepare their cyber content. Because of this, might the first day of school be pushed back further?
I don't see us pushing it past September the 14th, because keep in mind, every time you push the start date back, you're also impacting the end date in June, which means that then shortens the amount of time that you have for the following school year. And so it is a domino effect. We have taken some time to look at the start date and are planning appropriately. And so when you talk about the content and the pacing and what would be taught, we are in a position to be able to provide that for teachers, at least for the first quarter. And we will continue to work on having documents available for them to utilize throughout the school year.
Great. Mr. Garby suggests that teachers will be in 1 for multiple live sessions, 2 staff training, 3 office hours, 4 weekly department meetings, and 5 grade level meetings. Can extracurriculars continue virtually if possible, or are we suspending all extracurricular until November?
All extracurricular will be suspended until November.
Okay. We asked, there's a question about teachers that share classrooms. Dr. Brennan said that that was okay, that they could socially distance within that room. I'm sorry, and rooms without windows, other means of changing the air. If I'm wrong, just correct me. How will online classes affect the autism support services?
We are examining all of the needs of our students. I know that we in ESY, I know we've been pretty successful with having the summer school program online. So we're going to utilize those experiences learned there to help us expand those efforts. And again, we will have to go back and make sure that we are addressing students' needs. Is it going to be easy? Probably not with special education students, but our goal is to make sure that we support their needs. And so we may have to look at doing some things differently, but we will be engaging in conversations definitely as soon as the board takes action. And we'll be bringing back further updates to the board so that at least the board and the community will know what our plans are.
Okay. Rooms that are not air conditioned, is it safe to use a fan, or will that be a risk of transmission? We've had this one before.
Yes, we have. I do, based upon what we've been informed from experts, there is not a risk because a teacher now, if this gets approved, will be in the room alone by yourself. I think the risk is even more minimal.
Right. What does this mean for special education teachers and students with IEPs and progress monitoring?
We will, again, come back to the board next week, and we will be outlining definite procedures for doing that. And again, we're going to have to be creative, and we will be having these discussions with our colleagues in other neighboring districts in Delaware County to see how others are addressing this fact as well.
Right. Could more than 25 teachers be in one building even if they are all in separate classrooms?
Yes, according to what was shared tonight, yes, that is correct.
Great. If all or many teachers live in districts which also decide to go virtual, how would they deal with childcare if teachers are going in the building to teach in empty classrooms? What is the benefit of bringing teachers into the classroom? You can take the childcare part.
Yeah, well, for the childcare, what I would suggest is that we have, you present that, and we would deal with those situations on a case-by-case basis. So that may be something, if you have not completed the teacher survey, given where we are, I would strongly suggest that you do that. And based upon the decision that's made tonight, that may change your response. If you've already completed it, you can submit another one. And again, we will deal with each situation individually.
Great.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Sure, Mr. Callahan.
How many teachers have completed the survey? What percentage?
Mr. Conley, are you on the line? I would ask that you answer that question, please.
Yes, Dr. B. Coates, Mr. Callahan, we have about 210 have completed the survey as of this morning, and we have about 385 roughly. And the deadline is this coming Monday, April 10th for completion.
August the 10th.
August 10th, I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. Thank you, Conley.
Thanks, Bill.
There's a comment, how will teachers implement mask wearing in class? That is off the table right now because we're going virtual until the end of October. Does the Cyber Academy have live teaching? Will there be a familiar teachers teaching Cyber Academy?
The Cyber Academy, right now, it appears as if that we will definitely have live teaching. I can't promise you whether or not it will be a familiar face. Some of the faces and teachers are currently in the district. And so that's what I could offer you at this particular time in reference to that question.
Thank you. For special education students, especially the large numbers of students coming in from early intervention, would it be possible to have students come in for evaluations?
That's something we can definitely consider. Again, we're going to be having conversations about this particular situation, and we'll be coming back with some recommendations.
Great. If you say cyber is more personalized, how are you comparing teacher-created content for specific classes to a program we bought that is designed for students across the country?
When I talk about personalization, I'm talking about the number of students, not the curriculum. So you can have a curriculum that is universal or used in multiple districts, but if you're a teacher with only 4 students, you can personalize what you're doing with those 4 students a little bit more than you could if you had 15 to 20 students. That's the point I was making about personalization.
Thank you. There's a couple of facilities questions here. I'm going to ask that Ms. Bookman copy this chat, and then they'll be discussed at property. And Dr. B. Coates, can we add them to the FAQ?
Yes, we can. Ms.
Great,
Bookman,
thank you.
We get those, that'll be great.
All right. Ms. V seems to be blocked. I've asked Mr. Cuff to look into that. Past practices that, yes, cyber uses Edgenuity, that will still be the case, correct, Dr. B. Coates?
They will use that, yes, in addition to some other tools as well.
There's another question about childcare. I'm sorry. Are we going to have Google Voice again?
Yes, that is the plan.
Okay. How does this affect secretary, support staff, and administration?
The expectation is that all staff will support schools and school operations. And so we will be outlining, for example, how certain staff members may support. So let's say, for example, and this is just an example, Eric B. Coates, student in 7th grade, hasn't logged into Google Classroom after one day. Someone needs to be making a phone call to that home. If we don't get an answer and there's no phone call, and that may be the secretary doing that, because again, we need to utilize all hands on deck. Then it may be that the school support officer or school security officer may need to go do a home visit. Because again, we're going to need to make sure that our students are engaged. And so we will be able to determine within each classroom how many students have logged in. And when we don't see them logging in, that sends us a signal that we need to go do something. And so when you look at the support staff that's in a school building, it may be that, you know, we're informing principals that you need to identify Ms. Jones, whose role is X, to support Mr. Cuff, who's a teacher of the 6th grade. So we may be linking people together or support folks together in a building to provide support to that class, to that classroom. Ultimately, the goal is to support students and to make sure that they're engaged and that they are part of the learning process.
I worry about our youngest and most vulnerable population. They need to be in school. Building relationships with students is so important at the beginning of the year. There's a couple of concerns about cleaning. That will all be addressed at Monday's property meeting. Ms. Tax, you had a question for Dr. Brennan. If you put it in chat, we'll make sure it gets to him. Sorry, it was farther down. Thank you for putting not only our children, but also your staff's health as a priority. If teachers are in the building, what is the plan for safety cleaning, especially shared spaces, such as bathrooms, halls, and copy rooms? That will be shared at Monday's property meeting. Years ago, I signed my daughter up for cyber school, and it was more self-paced, not teacher-led. I chose not to go this route because she needs more teacher-led. So I took her out of the district and placed her in a cyber school. Has this changed? What is being explained about cyber versus online sounds confusing.
So what I would say is that it has changed. I mean, I definitely cannot speak to what was done in the past, but one thing I can assure you of is that there will be teacher-led lessons, and we will also ensure that teachers are providing support to students. What I would ask you to do is definitely go to our website, and there's a contact phone number, and Mr. Warren Denenza is leading our cyber school for this upcoming year, and you could definitely engage in conversation with him, and he will address those questions even further for you.
Chromebook question, will we be distributing Chromebooks again? When will families with multiple students be able to have more than one Chromebook? That was a major obstacle in the spring.
The answer is yes. We are fortunate enough to be able to provide every student with a Chromebook. One of the things I will say publicly is that each student will be assigned a Chromebook that will have an asset tag and an ID number. What that means for the family is that you're going to be responsible for ensuring that that Chromebook at some point comes back to the district. So we are going to make sure that we are assigning a Chromebook to a student, and that's your students, that's their Chromebook. but we also need to make sure that we are accountable for the asset, if you will, that we have. So they will be provided. We will be working on a schedule for pickup of the Chromebook. We will also be providing sessions around how to effectively utilize it to engage in instruction.
Great. Can we reach out to Dr. Brennan and ask him what proper ventilation looks like? Not directly, please send that question to reopeningschools@williampennsd.net. Is that correct, Dr. B. Coates?
I think that is correct. Ms. Bookman, can you confirm that email address, please?
Hi, and I will post it in the chat as well. It's
Great.
school opening at WPSD.K12.PA.US.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
To clarify, we are teaching in the building virtually. Does virtual versus cyber look like? What does virtual versus cyber look like for specialists?
It may not look that different. It depends upon what content you're actually teaching. And so again, if that's an interest of yours, I would ask that you complete that on the teacher survey, because it seems like we still have a gap with the number of teachers we have in the district and the number of surveys we've received. And we will definitely work with you on that particular item.
Great. Will the kids be getting specials, art, music, library, gym online?
That would be the expectation. We will be working out a schedule for students, so that information is definitely coming forth. But the expectation is, yes, that is something that students would receive. And keep in mind, I just want to be very transparent. It will look different than what we are accustomed to if we go back to pre-March 2020. And so again, we have to make sure that we're being mindful of a student sitting on or utilizing a Chromebook for X number of hours within a day. So I'm just sharing that because I just want folks to realize that it's not going to look like your traditional school schedule.
For non-cyber students, how will attendance be taken?
So when students log into Google Classroom, we are able to actually capture on the back end when a student logs in. And so that will be how we capture attendance. And the expectation is that students are logging in on a daily basis. And so when they log in, we will capture their attendance, and we will provide more specifications and guidelines for schools to utilize the data actually from Google. So again, that goes back to the question, if a student has not logged in, what are we doing as the adult? And so we're going to have some additional responsibilities as adults to make sure that students are engaged, because like other people, I also have some concerns with the level of engagement of our students. And we need to make sure that it's at an appropriate level.
Mr. Martinez, are there resources or personnel who can provide trainings, regular info sessions for parents to teach them how to work the cyber programming and be better partners? Yes, as Dr. B. Coates stated, we will be having parent trainings probably after the 1st of September. There's a couple of childcare concerns in the chat, Dr. B. Coates. Sorry. When will we be able to register for the 9th grade? I was told from the registration office that as of right now, they are not re-registering.
That is correct. Ms. Seward, would you like to add anything additional to that?
Sir, you are correct. We are going as business as normal. Students who are rolling from the 8th grade to the 9th grade will happen automatically in our system, and the re-registration process has been delayed until future notice.
Great. Another one for you, Ms. Seward. The doctor's office is not doing appointments because of COVID. Will children be expected, allowed into the school district without up-to-date shots? I believe the state has extended that deadline, correct?
That is correct, and we can provide a follow-up on that as well.
Great. A question about daily temperature checks of students. No, because they're not in the building. If a student needs to be evaluated by the school psychologist, OT, or speech therapist, will they be able to come into school into the building for a face-to-face eval?
And I would say that that may be something that we strongly consider. We may have to look at actually scheduling that and having an appointment. And so again, we're going to be in discussion with special education and providing further guidelines on that by sometime next week, specifically Wednesday during our education committee meeting.
Some offices for itinerant teachers have 3 to 5 people using the same small space. How will this be addressed? Dr. B. Coates has stated previously that he will be looking at each and every situation independently, and we're not going to put anyone in harm's way. How will the school district accommodate students needing ESL and are a part of the district for the first time?
We will continue to provide the level of support that we've provided in the past. Mr. Dennelsback has done a great job, I believe, with ensuring that those students have the support services that they need. We've also had some preliminary discussions around, for certain populations, do we have some form of orientation or welcoming that looks different than what we've traditionally done. So for example, when you're thinking about your students who are entering kindergarten, entering the 7th grade and entering the 9th grade, how do we do or potentially have a get to know you session or something of that nature? So we'll be having some conversations around what does that look like, because students will still and families will still have to pick up Chromebooks, and those times and dates will probably be scheduled as well, so that we can ensure that we are maintaining proper social distancing guidelines and not have 300 and 400 people showing up at one time trying to pick up a Chromebook and other materials that we will have for students.
Great. How will the lesson from classrooms be? Will the lessons from classrooms be videoed and sent to students? Will we be using our laptops? Yes.
Yes, I think you'll have
laptops.
Yeah, I think you'll have a mixture. Some lessons may be videotaped, some will be live, but we will provide some specifications for what, excuse me, what we should be doing at a minimum.
Great. Will cyber school teachers be required to be in a building, or can they teach from home?
It's probably going to be a little bit of both.
Right. Ms. Monroe, I apologize if this was answered already, but how will AP and honors classes be handled this year?
My expectation is that we're still going to offer AP and honors courses, regardless of the mode of instruction.
Right. Yes to all the technology. Sorry. Oh, wait, give me 1 second, please. Will students be able to pick up workbooks and other materials from the school buildings prior? Wait. I'm sorry. I keep referring to other meetings. When and where will the general public know the answers to said questions? Dr. B. Coates has been working diligently on FAQs ongoing. And every meeting is recorded. So we will be getting information out to parents via all those modes and letters, etc.
And then Jennifer, the only other thing that I would add is that I've already asked Ms. Bookman to make sure that on a weekly basis, I am doing some form of communication out to our communities. And so, if it's a video recording, etc., those are ways in which I will be continuing to communicate with the community as well, to ensure that our message is out there and to ensure that questions are answered and parents have the information that they need. And we will also be partnering with other entities in our community to ask them to share information as well.
Right. How involved was the student body involved in this decision?
The student body, I would say probably was not involved directly in terms of making this decision. However, I would say that they were involved in the sense that we want to make sure that we're following the guidelines from our health experts. And so everything that we're doing is in the students' as well as the staff's best interest. So we're following those guidelines to make sure that we're able to support our students effectively when school starts in September.
Great. Will teachers and therapists be given appropriate technology to record, teach, and interact with their students virtually?
Yes, we have a listing of the teachers that require or need new technology. And so that's what we've utilized to identify the number of Chromebooks that we need to purchase for our teachers. And so that's what we're utilizing as our guide.
Great. Will this new addition adjustment eliminate snow days off in the future instead of closing schools?
Not necessarily. They haven't changed the law on, there's the pilot program they started 2 years ago. You have to go through this whole process to do it. They haven't removed that from the statute. So when and if we go back to normal on all this, William Penn would have to apply for that program.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Khan. Many younger students will be attending daycare at home with siblings during the day while parents work. This was the case in the spring. What are the expectations for these students who will not be able to learn independently or during the live teaching sessions? Or will be at daycare during the time where the daycare staff will not be able to help them or sit with them? Will live teaching sessions be recorded for families to peruse at their leisure? How will attendance be accounted for these sessions if they can't log in during live sessions?
I think the question about attendance, if you're not logging in during live sessions, is a good one. But if I'm not mistaken, we can also tell when a student actually logs on for a recorded session as well, because they are signing in, and so we would be able to determine that. I would say to you that we are going to have sessions that are taped as well. And again, I would strongly encourage families to follow up directly with their child's teacher and or principal if there is a specific situation such as what was presented. And then that school could actually work out a specific support for that particular family.
Great, thank you. I also know from just reading that a lot of our local daycares are advertising that they will help students in their daycares log on and proctor them.
And and I was just going to add, that may be something that raises another thought. That may be something that we want to do, Ms. Bookman. I know we've communicated with our daycares, but we may want to reach back out to them and actually do a session for daycares as well, a training session, or just around what resources are out there. I think that would be another support to our families.
Absolutely.
Will students be able to pick up workbooks and other materials from the school buildings for paper and pencil, follow along, and additional practice during and after virtual sessions?
I would think the answer to that would be yes. That would be the expectation. I think obviously as a part of the orientation process, when you come to pick up your Chromebook, there will be materials that are provided to students. So for example, with Wonders, and Mr. McKay, please correct me if I'm wrong, there is a consumable book for students, which is like a workbook, if you will. So that would be something that students could obtain once they also obtain their Chromebook. So there will be resources that are provided for student use as well.
That is correct, Dr. B. Coates.
Great. What will be required of teachers, staff who work in multiple schools?
We will specifically outline a schedule for those individuals, keeping in mind that we all exist to support students. So based upon the students that you're scheduled to support, we will have a schedule for you in a way that you will be able to support those students. So for example, if I'm Eric B. Coates' teacher and I'm working with a group of students, it may be that for 30 minutes of a day, I'm pushing in, providing support. or it may be that I have to go into a classroom and then do a breakout room with 1 or 2 students. So again, we will be outlining that procedure for staff.
Great. Is it necessary to register our children for Cyber Academy at this point? Not unless you want to, because we're all virtual until the end of October, if that works for you. When Chromebooks are distributed, could it be scheduled such that when a child comes to pick it up, they can meet their teacher?
That would be ideal. Yes, that's going to be something that we try to promote. And so we will be working on a schedule for Chromebook pickup.
Great. What is the official start date for teachers? Will the PD and training be in person or virtual?
Right now, our thinking is that the PD, for most of it, is going to be virtual. And the PD begins on August the 31st. New teachers, PD and professional development is the Thursday and Friday before the 31st.
Great. Will the district's disciplinary code be revised to reflect changes with the addition of virtual learning and attendance?
We are looking at all policies. So I do know that Ms. Seward is working on that and has been in touch with Mrs. Hopkins. And I believe there's a policy committee next Tuesday at 6:30.
Correct.
11. Yeah.
All right, hold on, sorry. The board has not officially voted. It will take place after these questions. How will this impact the dual enrollment program and high schoolers that want to start taking college classes? Can they still be tested to do so?
Yes, we will make sure that there is a procedure in place. We do not want to deny students that opportunity. We were just on a call with with the Delaware County Community College, this afternoon. So we will definitely make sure that there are parameters in place for that to occur.
Okay, a teacher requests that we send out the teacher survey again. How many hours will teachers/students be expected to be on live teaching?
Right, we will be providing a schedule outlining that. Again, we're going to keep in mind that, that there are limitations to being on a Zoom or in a Google Classroom. So we will make sure that, that we take all of those items into consideration when developing the schedule.
Right. Part of the problem with following up with parents last spring was inaccurate information in eSchool. Can we make sure parents update their personal information when they pick up their child's computer?
Great suggestion. We'll definitely include that.
Yeah. What will the district do about breakfast and lunch program?
We will identify windows of time in which families can access breakfast as well as lunch. The thinking right now is to have each school serve as a site because we don't want to have children traveling across the county or across the boroughs, realizing that everyone does not attend the school necessarily in your neighborhood. So that is the thinking right now. We have not finalized the specifics on pickup. So it could be something like you get your food, you pick up for Monday and Tuesday, and you may pick up on Wednesday for Wednesday and Thursday, and then you pick up for Friday, so that it's not, we don't have people coming out and having to pick up every day of the week. But again, that's not definitive. We have to have further conversations with food services. And Jeff, please chime in if I'm mistaken. Okay, he's putting thumbs up.
Great. When will teachers receive this information so there's enough time for planning? I believe PD starts on August 31st.
Correct.
My son will be a new student in the district this fall for 4th grade. Welcome. We registered him online today. Will we also need to go to the district office? If so, for what reason? How will he be tested for his grade?
I don't think you'll have to come to the district office, but Ms. Stewart, is there anything else that we need to do as far as assessing the student?
Not at this time, Dr. B. Coates.
Great. Will it be an option to give all the children frozen meals one Monday for the entire week? I think I know this answer, Jeff, but I'll pass it to you.
We still have to evaluate that to see what is possible, because there may be a problem getting it out that many meals per day. So we're going to evaluate that and come back with a solution hopefully by next week.
Unfortunately, I don't believe that they let us give out frozen meals because of possible spoilage. So I think that'll be the answer. So now people with their hand raised, Ms. Cahill. And I appreciate you all. If I forgot any, I've been squeezing this mouse here. If I forgot anyone, please email. Pam, can you put the email address in the chat again, please? Ms. Cahill, you're on.
It's okay. It's already been answered.
Okay. Ms. Humphreys? Humphrey? Ms. Humphrey, you can unmute yourself. There you go.
I didn't mean to push that. I don't have anything.
Okay. Ms. Cahill, your hand is still up, so I'm going to assume that it's not correct. Next to Ms. Tax.
Hi, I have a couple things. My first question is, if teachers choose to go to teach in the cyber school virtually, that's only going to be for a year, right? And they would come back to their positions when the year is over.
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay, so there will be a long-term sub covering our position if we went cyber?
Not necessarily. We're going to have to look at the number of students who are registered in cyber and make determinations about who will support those students from a teacher perspective. And that will also then have implications on the students that are in a particular classroom in a particular school. So again, once we get all the numbers and that data after next Friday, we'll have to start making some determinations, and we will have to cross-reference the teacher request data with the cyber applications.
And that's a pre-done program. That's not teachers making their own lessons.
When you say that, are you speaking of the cyber?
The cyber program.
Okay, no problem. Just want to make sure I was clear.
Right.
We are utilizing Edgenuity, and we are also utilizing the pacing guides and the online curriculum that's been developed through our through the teachers and staff that are working on that for this summer. So, for example, in our lower grades, we are going to be utilizing Wonders. I don't know if you know this or not, but Wonders does have an online component to their actual curriculum. So we will be utilizing both. And our goal is to always make sure that we are teaching, all of our teaching is aligned to the eligible content that's aligned to the Pennsylvania state standards.
Okay, thank you. My next thing I wanted to ask was, Dr. Brennan said that we cannot have gatherings over 25. Our staff is rather large at the middle school, so how would that be handled?
That would mean that you would not gather. That means that you would come to school, go into your classroom, and you would be in your classroom.
No staff meetings.
I'm sorry, Jennifer, can I interrupt for a second?
Hold on.
Is there going to
Mr. Callahan, please hold. Let Dr. Becoats finish, please.
I would suggest that we not host or have staff meetings, and that direction would be given to principals. If you have a staff meeting, it would need to be virtual. And so that's how that should be handled.
Okay, thank you for that. And my last question, Dr. Brennan said that we should be wearing masks and they can only be removed while alone in our office or classroom. Can we please create a district-wide mask policy that stipulates this, that anytime we're in common areas or around each other, that we should be wearing masks for the safety of all staff?
Sure, I think that's a great suggestion, and Ms. Stewart is on this call as well, and the policy committee can definitely take that under consideration when they meet this coming Tuesday. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. That's all.
Thanks.
One more question. How will state testing be affected by cyber or online learning? unknown.
I was going to say to be determined.
Yeah. So far, they have not issued any waivers regarding testing.
Correct.
Any other questions from the Board of School Board Directors?
Yeah, is there going to be a separate forum to specifically answer questions from teachers and administrative staff?
Say that one more time. You broke up a little bit. I apologize.
My laptop's starting to overheat.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a separate meeting for teachers and administrative staff to ask questions similar to the being asked tonight?
We have not planned a separate meeting at this point.
Okay. All right, maybe a separate meeting for the teachers, a huge staff meeting. We don't know anything about testings, keystones, or any of the tests yet. All right, if I missed anyone, please email. I've been told that we can't cut and paste the webinar chat, so it was unintended completely. It's not easy to navigate, but please email school opening, WPSD.K12.PA.US. Thank you, Ms. Bookman. Perfect timing. All right, I'm going to read the motion. The motion is the administration recommends the following for board action. 1, move to online virtual instruction for students beginning September 14th, 2020. The administration will continue to work with local health experts in reviewing COVID-19 data, update the board of directors, and provide further recommendations as to when the district should move to the hybrid model of instruction. Updates will be provided to the board every 4 weeks. An online virtual model should be implemented until October 2020, end of first quarter. Further updates regarding this model will be provided at the Education Committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. Registration for the Cyber Academy will continue through the established deadline of August 14th, 2020. We will contact families regarding next steps. Moving to a virtual online model will delay implementation of all extracurricular activities and sports competitions until the end of October 2020. Voluntary activities, workout sessions, practices among students can still occur utilizing the same screening process we've been utilizing this summer. Again, all sessions will be voluntary. All scrimmages or team competitions versus other school districts are postponed. Please note, in abundance of caution, we're also postponing all low contact extracurricular activities and sports as well. May I have a move, please? A motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Mr. Cuff, roll call or regular?
Provide one last opportunity for board comment.
Sorry. Any other board comments or questions? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Khan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Okay. I want to thank Dr. B. Coates, his leadership team, all of our teachers, all of our parents, all of our community members for your patience in this process. These are uncharted territories in uncommon times, and we are very appreciative of all the niceness afforded to us. Thank you, Dr. B. Coates. I know this has been amazingly difficult. Thank you for having the foresight to bring Dr. Brennan on so we may have an expert here with us. It's very appreciated.
Thank you, board members.
All right. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Be well, mask up, wash up. We have no one to spare. Please stay well.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, all.